And from Colorado, Representative Lauren Boebert.
Gentlewoman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my colleague Ana Paulina Luna for leading on this very important issue. Adam Schiff is a complete disgrace to our nation and to our Constitution. He put the American people through 4 years of an endless impeachment hoax that he knew from the beginning was a lie. He represents the worst of permanent Washington, using his position of trust to lie to the American people. He received intelligence briefings that other members and the public did not have access to. And he used this position of trust to lie and to advance his own partisan agenda. Schiff's disgraceful time in Congress has destroyed Americans' faith in our institutions. Today, I am proud to stand with my colleague and friend from Florida, Ana Paulina Luna, to try and undo some of the damage that Adam Schiff has done by finally holding this crook accountable. Today, we are saying enough is enough by censuring him, and referring him to the Ethics Committee. I told the American people that he had proof that the Trump campaign asking the Russians for help in a conspiracy. That was a lie. He claimed that he was not working with anonymous informants during the impeachment hoax. That was a lie. Everyone with common sense knew that Adam Schiff was lying all along, including the Director of National Intelligence, Obama's former Attorney General, the FBI Deputy Director, and more. But Adam Schiff doubled down on his big lie, claiming he had a smoking gun, proof of a conspiracy. But the only conspiracy going on was his conspiracy to defraud the American people by taking down their duly elected president.
I yield 4 minutes to Representative Boebert.
Gentlewoman's recognized.
When Adam Schiff got caught lying, he did what all liars do and tried to cover the truth even more. He even used his taxpayer-funded staff to ask Twitter to censor journalists fact-checking his lies. But Adam Schiff won't get out of this one by calling in a favor. Today, we are holding him accountable and censuring him for his lies to the American people. To restore the trustworthiness of the House of Representatives, every member should vote to censure Adam Schiff so that we can speak with one voice to assure the American people that these lies will not be tolerated. I urge every one of my colleagues with good and decent intentions to vote for this resolution. If Adam Schiff has a shred of human decency left, he would resign from Congress in disgrace. His tombstone should read of his failed career in Congress and should be one word: liar. I yield back.
Gentlewoman reserved.
And Colonel, you never leaked information?
I never did, never would. That is preposterous that I would do that.
Okay. Colonel, it's interesting. We deposed a lot of people in the bunker in the basement of the Capitol over the last several weeks. But of all those depositions, only 3 of the individuals we deposed were actually on the now somewhat famous July 25th phone call between President Trump and President Zelensky. There was you, the individual sitting beside you, Ms. Williams, and then there, of course, was your boss, Mr. Morrison, who I just read from his deposition. When we asked Ms. Williams who she spoke to after the call about the call, she was willing to answer our questions, and Chairman Schiff allowed her to answer our questions. When we asked Mr. Morrison who he spoke to after the call about the call, he was willing to answer our question, and Chairman Schiff allowed him to answer our question. But when we asked you, you first told us 3 individuals at the NSC, your brother and the 2 lawyers. And then you said there was a group of other people you communicated with, but you would only give us 1 individual in that group, Secretary Kent. And the chairman would only allow you to give us that name. When we asked you who else you communicated with, you would not tell us. So I want to know first, how many other people are in that group of people you communicated with outside the 4 individuals I just named?
Yes, Mr. Jordan, on call readout, certainly after the first call, there were probably 6 or more people that I read out. Those are people with the proper clearance and the need to know. In this case, because of the sensitivity of the call and Mr. Eisenberg told me not to speak to anybody else, I only read out, outside of the NSC, 2 individuals.
2 individuals.
Das Kent and one other person.
And you're not willing to tell us who that other individual is.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
The gentleman will suspend. Counsel.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask you to enforce the rule with regard to disclosure, with regard to the intelligence office.
Thank you, counsel. You know, as I indicated before, this committee will not be used to out the whistleblower. That same
Mr. Chairman, can
necessity
you
of
first
protecting
stop the time
whistleblower
so I don't lose the
will
time?
persist. You are recognized again, Mr. Jordan.
Mr. Chairman, I don't see how this is outing the whistleblower. The witness has testified in his deposition that he doesn't know who the whistleblower is. You have said, even though no one believes you, you have said you don't know who the whistleblower is. So how is this outing the whistleblower to find out who this individual is?
Jordan, this is your time for questioning. You can use it any way you like, but your question should be addressed to the
I'd
witness.
like to-
And your question should not be addressed to trying to out the whistleblower.
Well, okay. Colonel Vindman, there's another thing Mr. Morrison told us in his deposition. He said he was not concerned about the call itself. He said there was nothing illegal or improper on the call, but he was concerned about the call leaking, the contents of the call leaking. He said this, he was concerned how it would play out in Washington's polarized environment, how the contents would be used in Washington's political process. Mr. Morrison was right.
Excuse me, Mr. Jordan, could I get a page?
Page 44. Mr. Morrison was right. The call leaks. The whistleblower goes to Chairman Schiff, staff. Then he runs off to the lawyer, the same lawyer who said in January of 2017 the coup has started against President Trump. The one thing the Democrats they didn't count on. One thing they didn't count on was the president releasing the call transcript and letting us all see what he said. They didn't count on that. Transcript shows no linkage. The 2 individuals on the call have both said no pressure, no pushing, no linkage with security assistance dollars to an investigation.
California is recognized.
I thank the gentlewoman. I rise in support of Representative Ocasio-Cortez amendment. The GAO's expertise and technical capacity are critical to Congress's oversight. This amendment by my colleague gives GAO access to important information in the IC's possession that is necessary for the conduct of GAO's responsibilities, while also ensuring the protection of sensitive sources and methods. It strikes the right balance between security, transparency, and needed oversight. It also imposes confidentiality restrictions, clarifies the GAO officers and employees, like their IC colleagues, are subject to penalties for unauthorized disclosure, and requires the Comptroller General to consult with the Director of National Intelligence to establish protections against such unauthorized disclosures. In sum, the amendment will enhance congressional oversight of the IC in a manner that protects our national security. I want to thank my colleague for offering it, and I urge a yes vote and yield back.
California yields back. The gentlewoman from
reserve
New
it back.
York continues to reserve.
I reserve, yes.
The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, every time the Chairman Schiff rises to speak on a bill about intelligence and security and holding the president accountable, I get excited hoping that we're going to hear about that evidence of collusion and all the other investigations that were conducted in this House over the past year. I'll yield back, absolutely.
Will the gentleman yield? Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, yield.
Well, let me ask the gentleman, are you aware, just by way of illustration, that the President's campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, secretly met with an agent of Russian intelligence and provided Russian intelligence with internal campaign polling data, as well as strategic insights about their strategy in key battleground states? Are you aware of that?
I think everyone's aware of every bit of information that you all have tried to peddle over the past 4 years.
Let me ask you, are you aware that while the Trump campaign chairman was providing internal polling data, that Kremlin intelligence was leading a clandestine social media campaign to elect Donald Trump? Are you aware of that?
I think we see every day. Facebook just announced that Russia was trying to do a Facebook campaign in Ukraine, if I remember reading that correctly. Mr. Schiff,
would you like me to
yield
go on?
to a question
would
from me?
you like me to go on?
What would you yield to a question?
Well, I'm asking you, would you like me to, you asked me to present you
Yeah.
with some of the information
No, I
about,
think it's great. Are you aware of
would you
President
like me to
Biden's son
continue?
Hunter's art dealings?
Would
Are
the
you
gentleman like
aware
to?
of the president's son's dealings with in Congo with the cobalt mine?
Well,
Are
you
you
know,
aware of the dealings in Ukraine?
To get to the gentleman's question, I am aware of President Trump's son meeting secretly in Trump Tower in New York with a Russian delegation with the purpose of receiving dirt on Hillary Clinton, which the Russian delegation represented was part of the Russian government's effort to help elect Donald Trump in 2016. And I'm aware that Donald Trump Jr., said in response to that Russian offer of dirt on Donald Trump's opponent that he would love it, suggested the best timing would be in late summer, and had a secret meeting in Trump Tower. And when asked about that secret meeting, both the president and his son lied about it. Are you aware about those facts?
I think that everyone's seen all the information again that you all have peddled. I'm curious if you would like to take a wager on which president's child, which president's son, at the end of the day, once we have the gavel, will be the most security risk to our nation.
So I'm happy to continue to outline the contacts between the Trump campaign and Russia, their solicitation of Russian help in the election, the former president's effort to coerce Ukraine into helping him cheat in the election. I would happy to go chapter and verse if you would like me to use your time that way. Right now, though, the subject of this amendment is to allow the General Accounting Office, the GAO, to help Congress oversee aspects of the intelligence community. But if you're more interested,
I reclaim my time.
The gentleman has reclaimed his time.
They've spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of tax dollars on trying to peddle a lot of wrongdoing in the previous administration. This bill is all about the previous administration. Every speaker on their side of the aisle has mentioned Donald Trump's name numerous times. Every speaker. It's time for the majority party to focus on governing and get over their obsession with Donald Trump.